Hello, folks. Welcome to the Reason RX podcast with Michael and
Melanie
in Minnesota. So, hope you're doing well today. Early morning for us, getting this podcast done, getting some more information out there for you, yourself, your children, the culture. Get some good rational information out there. So, as we've said before, we're starving artists, so if y'all could help donate to the show, contribute, we could have better quality sound equipment, recording equipment, market the show more. Maybe people could get donate specifically for like show notes or something like that. We could have people help on doing sound quality and all that. Some other thing like that. That would be cool. But we're doing the best we can right now. So, excuse me. So, and we got Patreon and PayPal for that. Links in the show notes. And then, if you find this valuable, then you enjoy it yourself, please share it with other parents, people who are parents. Share it with your friends, teachers, school administrators. We got some important ideas in here. We need to get out into the culture more and spread, because education's fundamental, very important aspect of human culture and thriving and flourishing. So it helps us, helps the culture. It's better all around. Because we gotta help other people a lot, because then that redounds upon us too. The better everyone can be in their thinking and decision making and awareness of how the world works, then that makes it better for us individually. So, yeah. Anything to add, Melanie?
Well, and as children, we really get one chance, one shot at giving them the best education and start in life, because they've got their whole life ahead, and it all depends on how it started.
Yeah.
What kind of education they had.
Yeah.
How they view the world. So important, very important stuff. And no one better than Charlotte Cushman to get us really deep into the trenches on what we need to do that.
Yeah, and we've talked about Montessori education in past episodes. Excuse me, sorry, folks. A number of times we've talked to Charlotte, talked about Montessori, and brought it up. So, of course, naturally, logically enough, we want to talk more specifically about Montessori education. And so today we have Charlotte Cushman on the show talking about Montessori, about education, about discipline. Can you say hi and tell us about yourself, Charlotte?
Hello. Well, I graduated from Lewis and Clark College in 1972 with a degree in elementary education, but I knew that I wanted something more. I had gone to some Montessori classes with my sister, and I was learning more in one or two classes with her than I did in 4 years of college. So I knew the classes that I went to with her were Montessori classes. So I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I went directly from college into taking my Montessori training, and then I taught for over 40 years. And then I wrote a couple books, Montessori, Why It Matters for Your Child's Success and Happiness, and then a children's book called Your Life Belongs to You. And
excellent. Yes.
That about brings you up to date.
Cool. So you had a 4-year degree in elementary education, you say?
Yeah.
And then did you get certified Montessori, or just kind of learn it on your own, or what?
No. After I graduated from college, then I took Montessori training from Lena Wikramaratne. She was a colleague and friend of Maria Montessori.
Oh, wow.
And she actually, Montessori lived with her when she fled to India.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember how many years that was, but so yeah, it was really a very good training class. Her.
How do you spell her name?
It's either Wikramaratne or Wit. No, it's Wikramaratne. Lena is her first name. We didn't call her by her last name, though. We called her Miss Lena.
Okay. I have to look that up. Spell it the best I can and look it up.
It should be in that book somewhere, Melanie.
It is. It's in the
Good.
Acknowledgement. Yeah.
Cool. But wow, that's pretty cool. It'd be like someone.
Well,
Pardon?
It was really neat because she would tell us personal stories about Maria Montessori.
Yeah.
And I wish I had written them down because I don't remember them anymore. But that just made it super personal and interesting, to hear.
Yeah.
What she said and what she did and stuff like that.
That's a lot when people learn stories about Isaac Newton or Abraham Lincoln or Bruce Lee instead of just academic stuff, or learn as much as we know about, as much as we can, like little stories about Aristotle or whatever. Otherwise, a lot of people seem to depersonalize the person, since it's just an idea or a book, instead of learning about also stories about the real person.
Yeah.
Makes a difference. Makes it more interesting.
And more plausible. More plausible too, because it's like somebody did this.
Yeah.
They're a person. Yeah. So.
But then it adds more to it, like shows you what you could go through in life, what they had to go through, and then you can identify with that. Because that's a basic thing we're here for, not just to memorize a bunch of information like a computer or like a platonic mind or something, but we're rational animals moving through the world, and we want to know how to survive. And those stories help us learn about that.
Yeah.
But cool. So you say mainly your training was learning from Lena?
Yes.
Cool. And you worked
How
under
come
her?
You're not saying the last name?
Yeah. I only speak English also, so little German, little Spanish, but not much. But so you worked with her and personally for how long?
Well, they offered the training for either 2 years or 1, and I took it in 1 year. And it consisted of going to class every day, and mainly during the day we would practice with the Montessori materials, or we would go observe her classroom, or some students would assist in the classroom, and then in the evening, starting at 6 o'clock, she would present the materials to us. So you would walk in at 6, she'd have a material sitting on the desk, and we would spend all evening on that one material.
Yeah. Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you really get to know it really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it should be.
Then you go home, you have to write up everything that she said, and you have to draw a picture of the material, and you put it in an album.
Cool.
Can you give an example of one of the materials that you remember working with that was very
great? Sorry. Can you hear the phone?
Yeah.
One of my favorites was the geometric solids, where there's different shapes, the sphere and the cone and the rectangular prism, triangular prism, and the pyramids and all that. And so we come in one night, and it's sitting up on the table, and Montessori didn't have any material in her classroom that the children didn't enjoy and like. And I'm looking at all those shapes, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, right. The kids are really going to be interested in this. I gotta see this. Well, by the time the evening was done, I was sold. And when we drove home that night, I would look around, and I'd look at a roof, and I go, oh, there's a triangular prism. And I'd look at something else, and I go, oh, there's a cube. Oh, there's a rectangular prism. Yeah. And I thought to myself, this is what kids do, you know. And then when I started teaching, that has ended up to be one of the children's most favorite materials. So much fun, and there's so many things that you can do with it.
Yeah.
But she would spend 3 hours explaining to you about one material, and it was very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting the way you say that, and the way kids do that. That's conceptual thinking, and people do it automatically. It's in our nature because we're rational animals to have conceptual thinking like that, but it's very few that actually reflect on and are philosophical about that conceptual thinking. And then when people do that, that's when they start to develop and identify philosophy and logic. That's what Aristotle had to do to identify logic, because people were doing that with geometry already and had learned pretty much what the rules of a good proof were way back in history. But it took a genius like Aristotle to stop and think, whoa, the scheme of a proof, that pertains to all rational knowledge. We always have a starting point when we're reasoning, and then we go through certain steps and reach a conclusion. And what is the starting point for all knowledge? Whoa, that's like the evidence of the senses. So that's a basic principle of all thinking. And that's one thing that Aristotle developed. And then, to throw in, that shows he's the philosophic originator of the idea that human beings are self-sovereign. Because if Plato was right, and some of us were stupid as hell, and some of us were like wise philosopher kings, then there's no self-sovereignty for everybody there, because some people aren't in touch with the truth. But Aristotle identified that every human being is a rational animal, and we all have access to the evidence of the senses, so we all can be self-governing. So that's a good implication there that comes up, his implications all over. But one thing was interesting, he was following in the Greek tradition of doing what Thales does. I'll post this article, but Thales was one of the first to think more conceptually and explicitly, just like these kids are doing. And I think it's not like the kids are geniuses. They're just, as I say, doing what a human being does. But to identify that that's what we're doing took someone like Thales. He's like one of maybe the person who started all modern science. But he would do something similar. In this article, it's interesting. He went to study geometry with the Egyptians, and then he would start to see triangles everywhere, just like you're saying. It was so interesting. It's like pretty much the same thing. You're saying, oh, look, there's a triangular prism. Oh, there's a rectangular prism. He was like, whoa, there's a triangle, and whoa, there's a triangle. And then he was able to use facts about triangles to figure out the heights of some pyramids that the Egyptians didn't even know. They couldn't find it in their records. They didn't know how to figure it. Like some of the heights were lost, but he was able to use like shadows, and it's not known if he used similar triangles or maybe some like congruent triangles, but stuff in shadows to figure out. But he was able to figure out how high some of the pyramids were, and he was seeing triangles all over the place. And so it's like shows the real deep importance of conceptual thinking, and how it's these two stories, and how it's just part and parcel of our nature.
Yeah, parents would report the same thing. They'd come to conferences and they'd talk about the shapes that their children would see in their house. Yeah. And they would be using, they talk about the ovoids and ellipsoids that they would see, and the parents just got a big kick out of that.
Yeah, cool.
Great.
Yeah, that's a start. What age? What I got to remember is to develop out of that, not just, oh, cool, it's a cute little thing the kids are doing. Oh, and then they're past it. What we got to do is learn to get that and then continue it and develop it to more powerful, practical things and more abstract things in life. Sorry, go ahead, Melanie.
I was going to ask what age level, or I don't know how I think she organized them by various ages together in grades, but what level would that be at? How old were those kids when they started that?
Well, Montessori would present children with work when they were ready for it. Okay. So it wasn't done according to group, it was just done according to when that specific child is ready. Mm-hmm. And with the geometric solids, I would not present it if a child really lacked a lot of coordination, because I have to be careful with them. We don't allow the children to just throw things around and knock things over and stuff. But if you have a child that has a lot of control at 2, you could present like maybe just 3 of the geometric solids to them, and then increase it, as they get a little bit older. But generally speaking, 4-year-olds for sure, providing they have that coordination. But usually by 4 they do, is when you pretty much start that. But you can do it with 3-year-olds as well.
Yeah, if they're ready. I find the same thing with teaching piano. There are some kids that people want to start at 3, and I say I have to see if they're ready. I mean, there's just a sort of eye-hand coordination that some 3-year-olds might have. Very rarely, though. Very rare. But by 5, 6, 7, that should be there by then. So, the assessment is very important. Otherwise, the child, almost from the beginning, learns, I can't do this. But, in fact, it's just too early for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, another thing, too, that's pretty interesting is some parents have this attitude. If they want to start their child in Montessori at age, they can get distressed because, there's these little 2 and 3-year-olds, and that's going to bring my child down, and blah, blah, blah. And it's interesting because a lot of times those 2 and 3-year-olds can be farther ahead than the 5-year-olds because of their exposure to things like the geometric solids,
Yeah. Well, and the children don't know. That's not something they're sitting there judging themselves against other 2 or 3-year-olds, right? I mean, are they sitting there? They're just enjoying the material and what they're doing. They aren't sitting there checking it. That's a parental thing, I think.
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah. It's the, because of the way we were raised, most of us were not raised in the Montessori environment. And so they have a different view of how they think things are going to go than how things actually go.
So you're helping parents kind of get figured out here too, a little bit along the way. Like there's a little informal training for them as well as like what to expect, what would be a reasonable thing to see kind of thing.
Right. Well, yeah, at our school, I would give, and I still do at the school that we used to work at, but I'd give 5 demonstrations. One was on practical life, and then sensorial, and then math, and then language, and then discipline. And I would give those talks at the beginning of the year. And then throughout the year, in the newsletters, I would put articles on different things. And that's kind of how my book came about, was from writing these articles for parents.
Oh, okay. Right.
Cool. Let me see. So we got your training. Before we get into the book, like, how many Montessori schools were you involved with?
Well, after I took my Montessori training, I taught for a year in Portland, Oregon, as an assistant at a Montessori school. And then I was at a parent-owned, parent-run school in Minnesota for 11 years. And then I had my own Montessori school with my best friend, and we had that school for 15 years. And then my husband had started a elementary Montessori school. So when my best friend retired, then we bought her out, and then my classroom, or our classroom, became a part of his school. And that ran for, I think, 16 years.
16.
I think. Or maybe more. I don't remember.
A lot of educational experience. Sure, that's great. So administrative and teaching?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
entrepreneurial?
Yep, entrepreneurial for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Mm.
But yeah, a long time. And then you're still involved with the Montessori school or not? Or
I am. Our two of our children work there. One works as a co-administrator. The other one is teaching. She's teaching the same level I did. And then 4 of our grandkids go there. And then one of my husband's daughter-in-law, well, my stepdaughter-in-law, she's on the board there. So yeah, we're still involved, and I still go there, and sometimes I'll sub, or I will give a talk to either the staff or the parents on different things.
cool. And then you've written some books.
Yes.
And what are they about? Theater?
Well, the first book that I wrote is about Montessori, and then the second book that I wrote is called Your Life Belongs to You, and it's about the founding of America.
Mm.
And it's a unit that I taught to the children when I was teaching, and so I developed it into a book.
So, like, the kids liked it a lot, and
They loved it. I would only present a little bit of the story to them each day because they're young, they've got a very small crow. So I would present a
They
little
got a
bit to
small
them.
what? Crow?
Crow.
What do you mean by crow?
Crow epistemology, where you can only hold so much before your brain can't really take any more until maybe the next day.
So, by crow, it's short for crow epistemology, and you mean it's something about the way our mind functions, and so we can only handle a little bit at a time, a certain amount?
A certain amount at a time before you start feeling overwhelmed.
Okay.
I think, who was it, Leonard Peikoff that came up with that expression, or was that Ayn Rand?
I don't know. Might have been. But, like, where did it come from and all that stuff?
I think it was in a objectivist lecture that they talked about that. It may have been Leonard Peikoff. I don't remember now. But anyway, if you present them with too much, that more than they can understand or more than they can handle, then their mind's going to be off, and they're going to be goofing around, or they're going to get frustrated because they don't understand. They can only consume so much at a time. So then the next day I would review real quickly what we did the day before and then present the next part of the story. And then we would just go on and on like that. Every day I would review a little bit and then go to the next part. And they loved it. And I would leave them on a cliffhanger. Like the Boston Tea Party. I would, when we got to that part of the story, I'd say, what do you suppose they did? What do you think they're going to do? And then I'd leave it until the next day. And then they'd be, in class time, they would be discussing, what do you think they did with the tea? And they'd be having all these conversations. So it was to listen to that,
Cool.
Or today,
Yeah, it was.
Today, I don't know. I just said today, I wonder if kids retain and kind of mull over. I'm sure, to some level. But that's great that you presented it as a part of the literature and history.
Yeah,
that
it was. It was probably my favorite unit to do with them. And then once we got to the end, they could do a timeline of all the events. We'd lay a timeline out on the floor, and they'd put pictures of all the events that happened and all the people that we talked about. And then we could, we did, we called them riddles, where you would read something like, who said, give me liberty or give me death? And then they would try to figure out who it was. And they loved that game. They just loved it. And they would play it over and over and over.
How old were they?
We had I had children ages 2 through 6. And the really young ones, they would, when the children would want to do these games, they would sit and watch and listen. They might not say very much like the older kids, but once in a while, one of them would come out with, the answer would just pop right out of their mouth. You know, they enjoyed it, even though they were young and couldn't remember it all. But
yeah. Wow, very neat. It's great, sure. And it's a good book. I've read it recently, and as an adult, I was so engaged. I loved it. Sure. I don't want to give anything away, but the end of it is very touching. I think everyone should read it and read it with your kids. I highly recommend it. It's wonderful, and you can get it on Amazon.
Yeah.
We'll link to it in the show notes.
Yeah. Well, but I'm just letting everyone know it's out there. It's not like, hard to find or it's very easy to get. So, but wonderful.
Cool. How'd your other book come about? Why'd you write that one?
Okay, the Montessori book. When I first got involved in Montessori, the parents, they really liked the results that they saw in their children, but they didn't understand all of how Montessori works. So they put a box outside the classroom. This was at the parent-owned, parent-run school. And then people could put in questions. So then I would take the questions out of the box and I would write an article that answered those questions, and then they would put them in the newsletter. Well, as the years went by, I just kept doing that whenever parents would have a question about something. Then I would write an article and we would put it in the newsletter. And parents and teachers alike said, Char, you've got to get this published. And so, yeah, that's how it came about. But when it did actually become published, I had to do a lot more work because each article was self-contained. But when you put it into a book, then there's a lot of repetition. So I had to take out all that repetition
and tie it all together.
Right.
Kind of, yeah. There's the writing tip. That takes a lot of work.
Cool. But so, Melanie, any other questions about her background before we move on to some other stuff?
No, I think that's good. Yeah, pretty comprehensive. A lot of experience, clearly. So I'm sure you have more stories than we have time for today, Char. More experience to share with us, but we'll have to just, dig in, I guess.
And so then, so Charlotte, you never knew about Montessori when you were younger or when you were in college?
Not when I was younger. When I was in college, I took a child psychology class where she was mentioned, and we read an article that somebody else wrote about Montessori rather than reading Montessori herself. Mm-hmm. And the only things that were said about Montessori were very negative.
Like, do you remember some of them?
No.
Just put it out of your memory because it's stupid.
Well, let's see. Now, wait a minute. Let me think. That she was too rigid because children had to do things a certain way. That was one. I think that was, that's the one that I remember. There were others, but it was all negative.
That's kind of funny because, you got the Montessori Mafia nowadays, as they call some of the people who started, I don't know, Google and Facebook or something or other, and what, they're like praised, and, their whole thing is creativity, not, anti-creativity, rigidity,
Oh, well, that was another criticism, and it still is a criticism, that Montessori is not creative enough.
How do you counter that, Char? What do you say about that?
How can you be creative if you have no knowledge? And that's what, Montessori builds on the child, helps the child with creativity, because we focus on, like in the sensorial area, they learn size, they learn width, they learn length and color and shape. And if they're going to draw a picture, they have to have those concepts.
Mm-hmm.
And but the creative in quotes people think that you should just set them free and they will reveal themselves. They will just be creative, even if they're being destructive. That's creative. Well, no, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or yeah, sometimes I think, given the way some people are praised in the society for certain things called creative, I think some people confuse what I would call stupid and incompetent for creative. You know, I don't think that's a lot of people at large. It's just like some modern philosophers, you know, not all philosophers, but some ones that are into the more modern Platonic, Kantian, Deweyan stuff. And then you got this, you know, nonsense where so-called music where they don't play anything for like 3 minutes and what a great piece of music. Or someone gets this like canvas and does nothing to it. Whoa, that is so deep. You're so creative. Look at that. It's like nothingness, yet there's something there. And this other crap about like some canvas with like blue with this black line across, and you have someone at Sotheby's or something talking about, whoa, look at this black line and how it goes across and it has some metaphysical meaning or something. It's just, that is not creative. That is just stupid, pathetic nonsense. You know?
I agree. I agree totally.
Well, that's creativity in a void. If you're not creative, that's the creativity, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that saying about actual creativity?
Yeah, so it's like, so what Charlotte's talking about is more like Mozart learning the basics of music when he's young, and then being able to manipulate that, do different things, come up with new, like, be able to express emotion and human feeling and musical form. Instead of writing literature, he kind of like wrote the same stuff in music. But it was because he was so good at the craft. It's like making music is a craft, and you got to know the tools and the materials.
Yeah, and to the credit of Mozart's father, Leopold, he was an excellent composer, and he gave Mozart everything he could, and Mozart took it and ran with it. So yeah, that's
really,
where
really fast and really, really far.
Yeah.
I've actually spoken with a parent or two. This is one particular one who said she believed we should delay reading with kids as long as possible so that their imagination has a chance to get there first. So like not just getting them into stories and reading, because then they won't really think for themselves. Don't let them read. Just let them think about things that might come to them.
Oh gosh.
So I said, yeah, I mean, where do you begin?
Yeah, it's hard to know where to begin. It's hard to know where to begin when somebody says something like that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think there's like there's a contradiction there. I think they're not recognizing, kind of like we've talked about maybe with Dr. Bernstein in a previous episode, Dr. Bernstein, the philosopher. Because some people think, well, either you have the kids read Shakespeare or you have the kids read stuff they enjoy. Wrong. They can do both. And they, you should be interesting enough as a teacher to make Shakespeare relevant and interesting. Get with other teachers, learn how to do it. Yeah, it could, you don't know how to do it right now? Well, learn. But same thing with like this. They can think for themselves and learn to read.
Yeah.
It's not like one or the other.
I got to tell you a story about the Shakespeare thing. When I grew up, I hated to read Shakespeare. I just hated it. And our kids, when they were in Montessori, were exposed to Shakespeare at a much younger age. So our older daughter, when she was in 5th grade, she was reading Shakespeare, and she loved Shakespeare.
Oh, wow, cool.
She went to the library, and she couldn't get about Shakespeare. And she goes over to the woman, to the librarian. She goes, "Where are your Shakespeare books?" And I'll never forget it. The woman looked over her glasses like this, What school do you go to? But my view on that is a lot of times kids are exposed to it too late. She was exposed to it young enough where she thought it was great. She goes, Mom, everything rhymes. Mom, the repetition is great, And I think if you get them when they're in that sensitive period for those things, then they really enjoy it. They don't have to worry about whether they're going to like it or not. I mean, this isn't to say every child's going to like it, but chances are, if you get them at the right time, they will enjoy it.
And Char, you mentioned in your book that very concept sensitive period. You called it in your book. And I was thinking it'd be good to have you kind of talk about that a little bit. Is there that window? I think that's maybe kind of what you're getting at. But go ahead and use.
But we'll have to do that next time because it's about 10:45.
It's 10. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went fast.
So
quick, Char, 30 seconds.
So so we got. So we talk about her background in the future, folks. We'll have to get with Charlotte again, and we'll talk about what Montessori is. Talk about learning, education, how to tell a real Montessori from not, what parents and teachers can do to use some Montessori methods and tools and principles with their own children and students, and talk about discipline. But we got life ahead of us, so we'd love to keep talking, clearly, but we got to head out and do some things, so we'll have to have future episodes. So sorry it was short, but thank you, Charlotte, for taking the time out to get started on this discussion of Montessori education.
Well, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, it'll be soon. We'll talk to you soon, Char.
Definitely.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
So we hope you enjoyed it, folks, and we'll be talking to Charlotte soon. And remember, if you could help donate, contribute to the show so we can get more ideas like this out, have better quality software, better quality recording equipment, get a better microphone and all this stuff, because as we say, we're starving artists. I'm not Bill Gates, so I can't do podcasts 24/7 and record all this stuff myself and be set for life. I think Melanie's the same.
Yeah. It would be nice if we could get the word out and do a little PR, that'd be nice.
Yeah, if you could like the show, leave some rational reviews, help,
share.
Yeah, share this with people who are parents, people who are teachers, people involved in education. Help spread these good, rational ideas because they're beneficial to our children and our students, and and you love your students, your kids, you want to take care of them. So, this stuff really matters, and it'll help improve the culture, and and then that comes back to you. If we got people who can live in the world better, then we got more people we can admire, do business with,
learn from.
Yeah, all kinds of things.
Find inspiration. Thank you. Yeah, it's
Make
great.
a better world. So, cool. So, hope you enjoyed it again, folks, and we will talk to you all soon. Bye.
Bye.